Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to PWR Today, Thursday morning, January 6th, 2022. The man they call Meathead, the M.O.T.S, M.O.T.S, the Matthew of the Sierra. Streets. There it is. Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew.
Or I could be the Matthew of the Sierra Mist, which is kind of like a Fresca or something, not a half
Sierra
bad
Mist
drink.
is the Sprite of the Pepsi world, is what
Yeah,
Sierra Mist is.
But it's a decent soft drink. So good morning, Meathead. And thank you, Meathead and Linda, for taking over the duties last night.
You said
and I'm glad to be back on the scene for a little Dynamite talk.
Yeah, and to be honest, white soda-wise, I've always gone to Diet 7-Up. It's 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 caffeine, and 0 taste. So,
I actually had a Sprite Zero a while back. That was not too bad, man. I hadn't got down on the Sprite Zero much before, but I was really impressed.
All right, Matthew, you know what impresses people in the wrestling world when we show up at events wearing what brand?
That's collar and elbow, and no matter what kind of soft drink or hard drink you're drinking, you just want to be careful and make sure you don't get it on your collar and elbow brand gear. But if you do and you need to reorder some collar and elbow brand gear, there's also, I did see a very well done mental health collar and elbow shirt that just launched a couple of days ago, I believe. Okay. So head on over to collarandelbowbrand.com.
Might have to look at that.
Yeah, enter promo code Linda, KLINDAKAY, save yourself 10%. And check that thing. Make it part of your daily routine because there are new varieties coming out not every single day, but there's new varieties coming out pretty consistently. So you need to make it part of your daily routine. Hey, if you maybe there's part of your daily routine. Maybe you say your time's too busy, and there's part of your daily routine that you can take out, like brushing your teeth. All right. Just don't brush your teeth anymore and check collarandelbowbrand.com.
Oh, come on.
Hey, I'm just telling you how you can fit time and how you can make time.
You can always make time for brushing your teeth and for looking at collarandelbowbrand.com. We would be remiss if we didn't lead with the real news and then get into the Dynamite results because what's becoming, honestly, a quarterly thing, Matthew. I mean, it used to be the post-WrestleMania cuts, the post-WrestleMania future endeavors notices. No, looks like it's been quarterly. I mean, if we go back and look at it, I mean, there's been more than 4 times in 2021, but maybe it's bi-quarterlies. I don't know. More releases out of the WWE. Matthew Thomas, here is the list. Wrestlers: Danny Burch, Timothy Thatcher, Hideki Suzuki, Kathy Carino. Coaches, including our dear close personal friend, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, William Regal, Dave Kapoor, also released from WWE. Sarah Combs as well, who was a senior vice president of consumer products, being released. Matthew,
what really strikes me with this one, I mean, you've got people that have got lineage in that company. You've got Road Dogg in this. You've got William Regal, who was your mainstay of that NXT brand for so long. And I guess it shouldn't come as a huge surprise the way that brand has just been,
not the
gutted
for a lack that he worked at.
Yeah, for a lack of a better term. But my goodness, and I mean, it almost seems like it's a every 6 to 8 week cadence at this point. That's kind of what it feels like off the top of my head.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. It's just not comfortable. And to be completely honest, it makes me not want to be involved in the product. Not because I'm loyal to the talent, which, I mean, Road Dogg, a big friend of David the Knight of Popcorn. Actually, the Popcorn Knight. I'm going to get his name right. We've dubbed Dave a new nickname. Knight. David the Popcorn Knight Hero.
That's fantastic.
Say it again with me, folks. David the Popcorn Knight, Knight with a K, Hero. But, a good friend of Dave's, I actually was involved in a match with him as well as the official timekeeper way back in the day. So, Road Dogg will be fine, folks. Don't stop watching it because Brian James is no longer. Just watch it if you want to watch it. Don't watch it if you don't want to watch it. But William Regal, who was the authority figure for many, many years on NXT, and then gave up his spot to Samoa Joe, and then Samoa Joe said he didn't want to do it, wanted to wrestle for the championship, became champion, got injured, relinquished the championship. We haven't seen Regal since. And then Toothless Timmy. Toothless Timmy had that thing with Grandpa Ciampa. Hideki Suzuki, we saw him on New Year's Eve walking out with the Diamond Mine. We haven't seen Danny Burch in a while. Matthew, here we are in January talking about these releases. I was ready for the April releases. not ready for more January releases.
Yeah, no, it's a surprise. Like I said, it's very, very consistent here, and I don't know that you're not always expecting some more talent to be announced. It has become so
Let me ask you this
repetitive and
question.
so consistent. Yeah,
Let me ask you this question. What is the thing that wrestling, like old timers, new timers, and all that, ask you to do with their performance on TV? Emotionally invest, right? How the hell
yeah,
am I supposed to emotionally invest in anyone when we have this fear of them being released in another month? I'm not invested in anybody right now.
yeah,
Not on
and and
NXT, I'm not.
and it's been so strange too because you've got it has what it traditionally has been in a lot of cases. People that were not being used or people that got in trouble for various reasons. What it's turned into now is you might have somebody in the middle of a push. Think Hit Row. Think somebody just called up to the main roster and then they're cut. We saw it with Strowman earlier this year. We saw it with Bray Wyatt. I mean, people that they are mashing the gas down on just go by the wayside, in the drop of a hat.
I mean, look what happened with Toni Storm, who had just
Yeah.
had a title match. Poof. Now, she wasn't released, folks. She asked for a
Yeah.
release. But that's my point. How am I supposed to get emotionally invested in any talents in WWE or NXT if I have this fear that they won't be there the next week? I just don't care. And maybe that's why it's reflected in your numbers. So I'm just saying that out loud.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And you're in a business where you've got to build people and get people over. And sometimes, it happens in your first match, i.e., hook. And other times it takes a decade or two. And that's the problem that you run into where you almost fall in the it's a little bit of an in your face analogy there, but you saw what they did with Fake Razor and Fake Diesel, where there's
Yeah.
this mindset of WWF or E thinks they can just kind of put people, plug and play these people. And I think that
Doesn't work
affects
that way.
the booking and it affects the way that they're, getting people over or lack thereof.
Back in the day, Freddie Prinze Jr. said he was interviewing to be the COO, or they wanted to interview. Apparently, along those lines, when he was interviewing, do you know that WWE had already talked to Fox and were attempting to sell the entire company?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting insight there. And I mean, again, once you see all of these cuts and kind of trying to trim a lot of their expenses, it just goes further into that narrative.
Yeah, and you know what? It was just a money thing. They were going to do it, but the number wasn't where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So they ended up licensing SmackDown instead. So this Nick Khan that is up there, he seems to be the face and the name behind just the, I'm going to say it, the shit show of cutting talents and cutting the product. And, what are we going to have for WrestleMania? We're going to have 2 nights, 3 hours apiece, and you have no talent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's again, when you have got all of this TV time and you're stretched so thin and you got to go back to what we
That are
saw.
their own doing.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. I mean, you're at a time where you're probably going to have people go down due to COVID protocols and the
Yeah.
like. And the Roman situation. I mean, they ended up, I think, making a good move for business and what they did with Brock. But we saw it a few weeks ago on Raw.
That's called hotshot booking, though.
Yeah, where it didn't work out so well, where you're stretching, your talent super thin, and you've got, you've got the guy AJ's feuding with on NXT showing up on Raw to try to stretch that
Grayson
out.
Waller, your favorite
Yeah.
guy. All right. Well, I mean, stay tuned because who's to say there won't be another round of cuts right before WrestleMania? That would be a kick in the crotch, to be honest with you, because all the wrestlers look for that WrestleMania payday, and if they cut more before WrestleMania, that's pretty messed up. All right.
Absolutely.
It'd be like firing somebody before the Christmas bonuses came out.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's what it would be like. All right, let's talk Dynamite from last night. Is the new Dynamite on the mothership, TBS, Turner Broadcasting System. Dynamite was going to have a 3 separate segments that involved the title. They opened the show with the AEW World Championship match. They were also going to have the finals of the TBS tournament and crown a new TBS champion. And to button it at the end, the AEW Tag Team Championships would be on the line. They're coming from Newark, New Jersey, and it is Adam Page taking on Bryan Danielson. The judges at ringside, Paul White, Mark Henry, and Jerry Lynn, the whole effing show. Wait, what was the new effing show? Wasn't that his tag? Because RVD was the whole effing show. I think he was the new effing show.
Well, there's enough to go around there.
A bunch of effing shows, yeah. Well, we get a lot of promo for the big show or Go Big Show or whatever it's called with Cody. But this match went approximately 33 minutes and it never made it to a time limit. Lots of color, lots of hard shots. Your winner and still AEW champion, Hangman Adam Page.
I think the easy way out would have been going to another draw. I'm glad they didn't do that.
That would have been lazy,
you're right.
To me, honestly.
It was a super violent match. I think the color in the first match worked more towards the story they were trying to tell. Last night, it bordered excessive to me, especially coming after the women's street fight on Rampage last week.
But I think understand that Matthew and I do skew towards wanting less of that. That's our personal opinions on it, but we skew a little bit towards less color.
Yeah, and I think that I'm fine with it as long as it tells a good story and it's not overused. And you saw it on 2 consecutive AEW products. You saw it in the women's match, and then you saw it
3.
this week.
I mean, if you go back to some of the color that was last week Wednesday. So
no, that's true. And here's where I think it would have worked, Meathead. I think if you went, and where I thought they might be going was not to a time limit draw, but both guys were so incapacitated, and
like it was just a draw where they couldn't raise a hand,
and they could not continue due to the loss of blood.
Okay,
that was a possibility, and at that point, you had to get it to get there. I think it was a little bit overdone last night. That being said, a really solid match.
You know what they did great last night, and this is, and JR even called it right after. This is something that AEW is very good at. They protected his finisher. Hits him with the buckshot lariat. That's it. It's over.
And it was smack dab in the literal middle of the ring too. It was a very
clean pin for Adam Page. Bryan Danielson suffering his first loss in AEW. You know, it really kind of not made me mad. I mean, I was like, oh, come on, that's just dumb. Those little banners, those little bugs that they put on. When Adam Page came out, hasn't won a match in 2022.
Oh, I love that. I thought that was great. If you look at it too, I think pages are generally kind of self-depreciating like that. It's kind of an angle that they're actually trying to do, I believe, with the TNT or TBS or Turner or whoever produces those things at this juncture. But no, and I want to put this to you, Meathead. I mean, you probably have to go back to an ROH match that I've never seen, but this very well might have been the first time that I've seen Bryan Danielson bleed.
I can't recall the last time, honestly.
And if it happened in WWE,
you had to look close first, wondering if it was Adam Page's, but no, that was Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, and if it happened in WWE, it was, course by accident, and it was not anything to the gesture that we saw last night. And AEW is doing something very interesting in this. I think we saw it the first Page Danielson match, and we saw it last night. You have the spot where somebody gets open and they go to commercial. And I got to think that picture in picture, the people stick with that a little bit more to kind of see the wound and see the blood. And it happened twice. It happened when Page got busted open.
Remember, Turner Broadcasting System is the one that created the overrun and started 5 minutes after.
Yeah, and it happened especially when Bryan Danielson got busted open. That was a little wound at first, and that picture in picture, man. I mean, he's got the crimson mask on by halfway, into the commercial break. So it's kind of like the whole thing with Sammy Guevara and his little flashcards in the commercial break. They are, they're doing smart things to get you to stick with it.
Yep. All right. Singles match. MJF taking on the captain, Shawn Dean. Shawn Dean wins via disqualification because PG Punk or CM Punk comes out and hits him with the GTS. Here's why he did it. Because I was thrown off for a second. I'm like, whoa, what? Yeah. And Shivani and the announce table sold it. They didn't. He can't go after the championship because he just took a loss.
Yeah.
The heck. I thought that MJF and Punk were out of stuff to say about each other.
Yeah.
but the line from Punk that says, "Hey, go ahead and main event the fourth night of a buy one get one free extravaganza," popped me hard.
And we talked about it last week, if it was too much WWE talk, and I was a little bit suspect, but here's what's happening is MJF is the heel, so he is going to talk about the other company to, further build heat for MJF, and you're gonna have him be able to to set Punk up. So he just teed it up like this with
It's
that
fantastic.
Very disparaging remark about the other company.
It's fantastic. Jericho makes his way to the ring. He says it's great to be back on the mothership, and he hasn't been on TBS since losing to Booker T. He thinks he cheated on WCW Thunder, but here comes 2.0. Squarehead, he calls him Terrence and Phillip. The Squarehead sells it for me. Hey, buddy, what's it all about? I did not know that 2.0 were Canadian. I had no idea what that was all about.
Yeah.
But you know what? Jericho and the Inner Circle are putting over 2.0.
Yeah. No, we've seen that. That's the feud that's going on there. And anytime you can rub elbows with Jericho and that bunch, it's it's a worthwhile endeavor. I still want to see my one-on-one match between Jericho and Kingston. Eddie, not necessarily Kofi, but that'd be okay too.
But hey, maybe you never know. I want a side note here. We talk Kofi Kingston, we talk Forbidden Door. Do you know that this Saturday at Hard to Kill, the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championships being defended on an Impact show?
I did not, and I kind of dip in and dip out of Impact, and that is a pay-per-view that I had my eyes on. I think they've sold out the building they're in, that I may end up pushing the buy button on.
That it's Jonathan Gresham is going to take on Chris Sabin for the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah. That's cool, and I'm glad to see the Ring of Honor titles.
I think AEW slipped and should have had that match.
Yeah.
I mean, because can you imagine, the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship being defended at Evolution? Because the Ring of Honor is not touring at that point. The company's technically, on hiatus, but they have the belt defended. Can you imagine that roster that AEW has and who would go after it? Maybe it still happens, Impact in January and then AEW in February.
Well, and it's very possible that, the time is right now with the ROH and with the AEW where you could really do an invasion angle that could mean something, because it's not
Jay Lethal in the house.
Yeah, and I want you to look at that too. He's really, really flying under the radar. Not a lot of Jay Lethal attention, and that.
Well, he wrestled on Monday, so
yeah, but still not being featured prominently in your main program. So no, I think they could have. Well, man, maybe there's a ROH person that's working in the building trying to sabotage the lighting, because we had the lighting go out a couple times last time.
Maybe. Well, the lighting went once for Malachi Black, but then the other time in the main event, it was nothing. So, AEW TBS Championship Tournament Final. Jade Cargill with Smart Mark Sterling and Ruby Soho. I loved Mark Sterling's jacket. Ruby Soho's jacket had Jade Cargill's picture on the back of it. Yeah. That's a little Rick Rudish for me. I absolutely loved it. But the winner and new inaugural AEW TBS champion, Jade Cargill. Look, we knew that this was built for Jade Cargill the second the tournament was made, right? Mm-hmm. But that end.
Yeah. No, and I mean that's what we've talked about. I mean, is there going to be some exposure that is going to take place in this role that, would not necessarily be there if you just continue the strong booking in a non-title capacity? So we'll see.
The other competitors that were in the tournament that got knocked out, like, for example, Thunder Rosa had an issue with Mercedes Martinez, come to ringside, and they kind of went at each other during the match.
Yeah, and we've got the whole thing with Serena Deeb, that feud going on now too. So I will say this: I think this title tournament has been very productive in the fact that it has given AEW multiple non-title storylines within that women's division. Something WWE has not done well for years.
With their tournaments, they're not rushed.
Yeah.
Think of a WWE tournament didn't last more than 2 weeks.
No.
3 weeks tops. This thing went on 2 months.
Yeah. No, when you had time to think about it, you had time to talk about it. And, I was always of the mindset, it's been going on for a while, blah, blah, blah. Duh, it's going to end on the first show on TBS. I don't know why that realization didn't,
It's
dawn
always right
on
in front
me.
of you.
Yeah. But, no, I think this tournament has done a great job for the women's division. And I like the fact that, they've got 2 women's titles, and it doesn't feel like, the WWE script where you have 2 world champions or 2 women's titles or this, that, or the other. You've got one that is, I mean, you're assuming the TBS title is going to be a little bit more of a mid-card belt, but
Yeah.
it's just, it's yet to really, really shape up. So it very curious in that regards. And AEW, again, I think when you're talking about most improved efforts for 2021, the reshaping of their women's division was huge.
You know what is a kind of underlying story here? Ruby Soho lost twice to each one of the women's champions. And then that came up in the backstage interview. You're going to see it Friday night on Rampage with Hikaru Shida and Ruby Soho taking on Serena Deeb, and I think Jamie Hayter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Brian Pillman Jr. and Malachi Black. This was an odd duck of a match. Okay. You had Julia Hart outside not doing anything, right? She was just like passive. You had the lights go out and come back on. You had Brian Pillman obviously miss that spot at the end, but did he miss it on purpose? Because, boy, he did a nice flip at the end and then got caught with a kick and a pin.
Yeah, whether he was supposed to spring off and take the kick or, trip kind of like he did and take the kick, regardless, it was 2 professionals in there in the ring. They made it make sense. So that was the end result.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You know what? They made it make sense. Here's what didn't make sense. You lose the pop for your tag team champions by having them run out before the match.
Yeah. Man, though, that's where I kind of wonder. I know you're gearing towards the fact that lights go dark, Black exits was intentional. The other one wasn't, but the tag team champions were involved in both segments. So I just got to wonder if there's something going on in regards to them or somebody's going to make an appearance.
Well, the tag team champions are involved with the Bastard. So, I mean, that's why they came out to Black.
Yeah. Here's my thing though, is I think that you've got to, if the second one wasn't intentional, I think you've got to have some kind of payoff going on immediately after when they film Rampage and get that payoff for the audience there, because you got to think that audience was a little bit disappointed because we had that, fade to black just for Black to leave. And then we had at the very end, no payoff. And then we had, which we'll get to in a second, but I think a little bit of an odd sequence there at the very end before they went off the air where you felt like something was going to happen.
Announced for Friday's Rampage is going to be a no-holds-barred trios tag match, 2.0 and Daniel Garcia against Kingston, Ortiz, and Santana. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter, like we said, against Riho and Soho. Soho and Riho, Soho. Yeah, I was saying that because, I mean, it's like having Page and Cage versus Cage and Page. Adam Cole taking on Jake Atlas, who's now All Elite, formerly of NXT. And Matthew, you say you didn't hear it because you were skipping through a couple commercials trying to catch up to live. Aaron Solo taking on Hook. The second this graphic popped on the screen, I was live at that point, I heard the crowd snap. They went bonkers for the announcement of this match. I never heard a crowd pop so hard for just a match flashed on the screen. Dude, Hook is over.
A match flash on the screen whose outcome is pretty much determined. I mean, it's going to be to accentuate Hook. This is not people finally getting Lesnar Lashley and popping for that match. They're popping for what a guy's third match that's most likely going to be a squash match. They've got something very significant and very unusual there.
The kid showed up, stretched out people, and ate a bag of chips. That was according to QT Marshall.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that.
Hey, you know what? QT and Aaron Solo had a great promo, but I'm sorry, dude. Hook's going to beat you in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Saturday's Battle of the Belts, which is live. It'll be Britt Baker taking on Riho, and she's never beat Riho. And it'll be a rematch. Cody Rhodes taking on Sammy Guevara. And next week's Dynamite, CM Punk taking on Wardlow as he's trying to get at MJF. Dante Martin and Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb. The main event, AEW World Tag Team Championship match, the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Zero Miedo and Rey Fenix, taking on Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus with Christian Cage. This was a great match, okay? Let me start there. It was a great match. However, they had so much standing around waiting for each other happening in there. When they were all four of them holding hands, come on, man. That's just as bad as when there's a ball of 8 people outside and you're waiting for one dude to go off the ropes.
Yeah, let me tell you, something AEW doesn't do great. I think WWE's got a leg up. And I don't know that we even talked about it on Tuesday's show, but the Kevin Owens coming off of the lower level deck, that was a spot
that just came out of nowhere.
Came out of nowhere, and I mean, yeah, they're all 3 there to soften the blow, but it happened so quick. I don't think the viewers are realizing that you're setting up a spot, and the way the camera
sold it too. Wow, what was that?
And the way the camera got it, the camera's going, and you finally see Owens coming to focus.
Not to show him, just to show the top and see a body.
So that's something that AEW keeps looking into.
They emptied out into the stage from the back stage area all the tag teams that now want a piece of Jurassic Express. Not bad. That didn't bother me. I kind of like that.
No, that was good. And again, I think a lot of times, that's something AEW hasn't done a ton of, and you forget how many tag teams there are. So I think that was effective. Cutting the people
Jericho
in
sitting
the stands seemed a little bit odd. And so you had your
lights. Malachi? He was just sitting by himself.
I don't know, and he doesn't seem to be the kind of guy who goes and hangs out.
The announcer said he's not the kind of guy. Well, he's kind of a solo guy, but maybe he can find somebody.
Yeah, and so you had the 2 segments with the lights going out, and then you've got everybody milling around the stage, which is unusual. And then you actually flashed to Jericho in the stands twice. You've got them trying to eat up time. And then you've got, the seemingly not wanting to go off the air, like they're waiting for something. And then they're
not waiting for hockey. They're on the mothership now.
Yeah. There's no payoff there. And you just, it was an odd, it was not your normal Dynamite going off the air. It was not Tony Schiavone. We're out of time. It's we're trying to stretch. We're trying to stretch time
to find out what happened.
Yeah. We're trying to stretch time. And it was an interesting feel when it went off the air.
Well, still a good show. Again, there's room to grow for sure. Tomorrow we've got to talk about what's coming up on Rampage and what's coming up on SmackDown. Plus, again, they're building towards Hard to Kill on Saturday. Yeah. Like I said, that John Grisham and Chris Sabin match intrigues me. That the Forbidden Door is open now to Ring of Honor, and New Japan Pro Wrestling has now gone back on American TV on Access TV. So is there something going on there as well?
I think what you're breaking down is there's about like 18 hours of wrestling to watch this week.
Man, oh man, I might have to call in sick. We'll have to see about that. Well, for Matthew Thomas, the man they call Meathead, hey, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. So long, everyone.